All right, Fireside Chat, we're back. We got Christian Ward here. Now, this is going to be a conversation that might seem a little bit less obvious, and then I think it's going to get real deep and real obvious and real exciting. But let's just open it up by Christian. Help us understand what exactly is SEO, search engine optimization, before the ChatGPT era, and then start moving a little bit into the implications of generative AI and AI-enabled search, and therefore how all of this stuff is changing very quickly.
Absolutely. Well, Alec, first off, when it comes to SEO, I'll be real clear because I know there's actual SEOs that pay attention to you. I'm not. I'm actually I'm data science, and what I love about it is that question is the reality is SEO before all of this had really two flavors. There was the content strategy, which is absolutely important. It's critical to getting the message out, the story. That's one side. And then there's the other side, which is much more aligned in my world, which is the technical SEO side, which is the structure, the structured data, the knowledge, what you're feeding to either search engines. And both of those sides, if it was a Venn diagram, there's a lot of overlap, but that central part is really kind of where data science steps in. And so for everyone that works at Google or OpenAI or a Claude, there's no one there that has the title SEO. They don't care what we think is going on, right? SEO is reactionary. But the data scientists that build these systems, they are very interested in structure, the data, and all the information around a brand or a business. And fundamentally, it's because there is almost no switching cost with search engines or with these AI systems. It's very easy for me to go, oh, that data's wrong. I'm never going to use that search again. I'm going to go over here. And that's what you saw for about 20 years, going back to really the late 90s into now, which is this sort of centralization at the top search engine that did it better than anybody, and that was Google. And now what we're seeing is this refragmentation because AI search is one-upping that experience to a large extent. So I think when we say SEO, it's really important to sort of distinguish there is absolutely a part of this which is all about content, it's about tactics, but the area that I particularly focus on at Yext and in general is really around structured data, which has been my whole career, is how do you feed the machines the data they need so that they are providing the best answers to the humans on the other side? And that's an area that I don't see getting any smaller anytime soon.
No, and to double click on that, and shout out to Henrik Werdelin, who, with us within the LinkedIn environments we've been in, just digitally talking about this and speculating. It's like, it doesn't feel like as many people are talking about this and the implication of this as they are talking about AI this and generative AI that and this, that, and the other thing. And so I wonder, let's just assume for a second, Christian, that you're talking to a senior, business leader who's not technical per se and doesn't necessarily get in the weeds of what SEO was and how you optimize for that previously, et cetera. But if you're building your business today, and you're thinking about where all of this is going, and if the trend continues with the way that the average consumer is getting their information that's a bit different than, the 10 blue links back in the day.
Yeah.
How do you kind of unpack that kind of, conversation? And again, shout out to you and all the content that you've been putting out on LinkedIn in particular. I really enjoy reading your longer form content on some of these topics. So I encourage the audience to go check that stuff out. But how would you kind of unpack that in a couple of minutes or whatever for, again, like I said, a non-technical senior business leader that's thinking like, of all the things I got to think about, now I got to think about this in terms of building my business and being found. And what is all this? Like, how do you open up that conversation?
Yeah, to some extent, it happens automatically because every business owner, and quite frankly, a lot of people, we tend to, at some point in our lives, either Google ourselves or Google our business. And so it gives you that first insight into, wait a second, this is a thing. I got to solve for this. And so I think that's pretty well understood at this point. It's sort of, everyone sort of says, table stakes, I have to do this. I think where this is starting to go though, and where it's opening up is for a lot of businesses, they don't show up no matter what they try. They're not going to show up if the person asking the question isn't near their business. That's proximity. If the keywords the person put in don't match what you've put out there about your business, then that's relevance. And then there's prominence, like are there reviews about you? Is there content? And so businesses have to look at all of those dimensions. And it can be very hard to explain whether it's a small business or a large. There's plenty of non-technical executives who look at this and say, this is just about discovery. Like, how do we do better than the competition? And I think what's happening, and one area I'm very excited about is, maybe it's a little anarchist, is rankings have been controlled by a central system for a really long time. And it's a black box, right? We don't really know. We know from a data science perspective what you should focus on, which is give it as much knowledge as you can. Any question that you think someone might ask, make sure that data is out there. Make sure you're updating that data frequently. These are signals you're sending, because search, very similar to the way hedge funds and financial services companies analyze investments, it's called signal processing. And it's just processing, like, if you're a business, like let's say I came to visit you in North Carolina, and we're in a room of 50 people, and I say to the room, where should I get a slice of pizza? Like, what's the best place? And if all 50 people,
I can answer that real quick. Percy Street, Oakwood, phenomenal, New York.
Okay, so now take that, and let's say I ask the other 49 people, and they're like, absolutely, it's right there. Here's where it is. Okay, so as a human, I will process that signal and say, that's where I'm going. Why? Because we actually, mathematically and statistically, it's ingrained in us. There's heuristics that work here where we go, holy cow, 50 people, they all agree, I'm going there. Now, if at the same time, everyone disagrees, or everyone has a little different data, or they have the address wrong, or they're not sure, that's where the problem comes in. And so all we're trying to express to businesses, you've got to send the right signal. Now, when that signal is strong, and now we start moving into AI opens up this whole other avenue, which is, for a lot of businesses, it's hard to determine or to separate themselves from other people's businesses. So, because a lot of things, like if you're in auto parts or if you're in, roofing, it's hard to distinguish yourself. However, AI is changing that it's not Google or one central search system in control of the rankings. The humans in control of the rankings. So what that means is, yes, search is fragmenting because people are now using AI and TikTok and all sorts of other platforms, but also rankings are fragmenting. Because what's happening is I can say to the AI something like, hey, listen, when I'm traveling, it's really important that I support local businesses. Can you make sure any response you give me, make sure what you're telling me supports a local business that is clearly involved in charities locally? Do you know that the AI, if you do that, by the way, everyone can try this. If you do that with ChatGPT, you'll get a little note. It's in gray. It says memory updated. And what it's doing is, when you tell it things like that, it will remember going forward that this is how you want to rank the businesses. Not because this one's half a mile closer. It will literally rank the one a mile further because that business has been in business in that town for 37 years and sponsors all the youth recreational soccer leagues. That's the type of thing that's happening. And I actually think that's good, because instead of trying to rank in someone else's algorithm, what's happening is what's important to the human, to the consumer, becomes its own ranking method. And that's good for businesses, because you can't compete as a smaller business with a lot of the budgets and the SEO strategies and the SEM strategies of these other platforms, but you can compete on what makes you different. It's just now that once people start to realize they can use AI this way, I think it opens a world of opportunity where SEO is no longer just about the tactics for one search engine. SEO becomes the science of the search experience optimization in any form. So it's still SEO, but it shouldn't just be for one engine. It's actually for all of the experiences that will be more driven by humans than by one algorithm.
I love that. That's a great answer. And let me ask a question, and I don't know if this is a fair question, but you mentioned signals. I like that a lot, right? And I like the way that you described that, hey, memory updated, right? So one-to-one personalization at a scale that's previously unimaginable. 100%
Yes.
with that. I get that 100%. The question I have for you, though, is what, let's take this to to the street level, small business owner, right? Mm-hmm. Who is very active in his or her community, in all sorts of different ways. How does that small business owner get that signal out in the world so that when Christian's virtual brain and his AI, et cetera,
my agent,
when you're coming to visit us in the Triangle, right, that you go to Pizza Box because Pizza Box is the best pizza and they're active in the community, et cetera. But no, but real answer would be very much appreciated. Like, what are those signals that these small businesses in that example should be paying attention to putting out, and practically, what does that look like?
Yep. So let's stick with a local pizzeria here where I live in Florida. It's Anthony's. Been here forever, and so when you look at that, Anthony's has to make sure that the signal that's going out is, number one, there. Number two, it's structured so it's understandable by a machine. So about 20 something years ago, Yandex, Bing, Yahoo, and Google got together and said, listen, we have a problem. We don't know if when you have the word Mustang on your website, do you mean the horse or the car? And so that was the birth of schema.org, right? So they got together and created Schema because it's a meta layer saying, no, we make pizza and meatball parms, but we've also supported locally. We've been here since 1936. There's all these other pieces. And so what you want to do is, number one, your website is still the first layer of a primary source feeding that structured data out. So if you're building a web page or you're working with anyone to help you do that, by all means, make sure they're putting schema markup, the structure on those pages. That's your hours, your menu, your reviews, your testimonies, your charities, anything like that. Put it out there, but don't just put it on a page. Make sure they take the extra time to put schema markup, because what you can see actually in Google and in these AI is they're checking that and looking, and it's easier for them to understand the schema markup data. That's step number one. Step number two is work with platforms, or work to make sure on every site. So you got to claim your Google business profile. You got to do claim Bing, Apple Maps. You can work with a company like Yext, who I work with. But the reality is you've got to make sure that anywhere a machine looks, the data that you want it to have is accurate, correct, and frequently updated. Those are the best things you can do, because if the machine if it's between ranking Anthony's or Pizza Box and they're competing, and Pizza Box has all the data, it's all structured. Any question, anchovies, where do you get them? It has even where they get them. It has everything. Google and every AI is always going to rank businesses where it's absolutely confident, and it can see that data with a confidence level on that signal, above something where it's like, I checked a bunch of places, the data's not exactly right. Why don't we go with these three instead of this one? And so that's what you typically see is, and for many people out there, in terms of SEO or just data, this is like core fundamentals. You can absolutely create great, social posts and TikToks. That stuff's great. But in the end, if you miss that the structure of who you are, what you do, if that signal is not strong, you're going to suffer against people that do it right.
That's a great answer. And we got 1 minute left. Build on that if you'd like, or go in any other direction. But those fundamentals are so important, it sounds like, and they will always be important. Things evolve, things change, but the fundamentals, it sounds like, are where you really want to make sure you've strengthened them.
It really is. And, if I would say anything to everybody, look, the AI thing, shiny object, it's awesome. And you and I both, we're so in it. We're in that, 1%, but the adoption rate is really fast. And I don't just mean ChatGPT, I mean adoption in other platforms of using things like Claude or GPT. So search is just getting so much better. But the fundamentals, so we've done a ton of research on this, literally hundreds of thousands of businesses over several years, where we can see the same fundamentals that helped you rank and you give a good signal in Google are the same fundamentals that these AI tools are using. So it's not like work over here in classic search isn't going to benefit you in AI search. It's the same approach, because it's not really SEO, it's data science. And so the more data, the deeper depth, the more consistency, those things work in AI just like in classic search.
I can guarantee what you just said about SEO and data science is going to be a headline in the micro essay that follows up with this awesome video. So Christian, I appreciate the time. Really good to connect on this. And if anyone is listening and watching this down the road, you got to check out what Christian's putting out on LinkedIn and otherwise, because it's pure signal. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Alec.
See ya.